In previous videos in this series, we've looked at using your iPhone's editing tools to do everything from cropping your photos to adjusting the black point settings. Today, we're going to look at 4 settings that I believe can really bring life to your photos. Those are saturation, vibrance, warmth, and tint. So let's take a close look at each of those and see how they can make changes. As a reminder, this video is based on the iPhone's iOS 15. So if you're having problems following along, check your operating system to see if you need to update. We have a short tutorial on how to do that, and you can find that video at rosenberg.com/ready. So go take a look at that if you need some help. The tools that we're looking at today are known as the color tools of photo editing, and you'll soon see why that is. Saturation is the first one we're working with, and it refers to the intensity of a color. The more you increase the saturation of a photo, the more vivid the colors will be. The lower the saturation, the closer it is to gray. It's easy to imagine why you would want to increase the intensity of your photo's color. I love a beautiful blue sky over green grass. Pushing up the saturation on a photo with those two things would just make those colors more stunning. But why would you want to lower the saturation? Well, there might be an instance when you want to create a muting or calming effect by taking the vividness of the colors down a notch or two. It's important to know also that you don't want to oversaturate a photo because it just creates an unnatural look. So let's experiment with adjusting the saturation. Let's open up the editor and see what making adjustments to the saturation of this photo can do. Already we have that beautiful blue sky and pretty green pine trees, but let's slide on over to the color tools and you'll recognize them right away because they have the colors there in their icons. So on the saturation, the first thing we're going to do is to reduce it, and you see how it just takes all the color away. But as we increase it, it makes that blue sky more vivid and it makes those pine trees a little richer and greener, so I like it. Let's look now at the before and now the after with the darker blue sky and the greener pine trees. One thing to keep in mind when you're working with making edits to your photos with the color tools is that saturation is, well, sometimes just too much. It's easy to overdo it and create an unnatural looking photo color-wise. This is where the Vibrance tool just excels. The Vibrance tool can be considered your phone's smart saturation tool. Just like the saturation tool, it can increase the vividness of your photo, but unlike the saturation tool, it has a built-in algorithm that makes sure the overall toning of the image never seems to be too overly saturated. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This photo of the black-eyed Susan blooms was taken on a cloudy day, and I want to see if I can make it pop a little bit better. So first, I'm going to show you what the saturation tool would do. If we increase the saturation, you'll quickly see it just doesn't look natural. The green's too green, the orange is too orange. So I'm going to pop over to the Vibrance, bring it up, and it just balances everything better. It brings up the natural tones to just a little bit more vibrance. So you'll see here the before photo, and now I'm going to zoom in on the after photo, and you'll see that color so much richer. Adjusting the warmth of your photo is really just adding more warmth by adding a yellow or orange tint, or cooling down the colors by adding a bluish tint. The temperature of a photo affects the mood of the person looking at it, so you might consider changing the warmth based on how you want your photo to make someone feel. Let's take a look at that. I took this photo during what they call the golden hour. It was almost sunset, so it already has that gold kind of warm feeling to it. But I wanted to experiment just to see what would happen. So first we're going to reduce the warmth, which will put more of a bluish tint to the photo. And you can see the effect that has. And then I'm going to bring it up, add that gold orange tint to it, and it makes it even richer. I really like the changes there. So here you see the before photo, And now the after with that golden hue added to it. So the last of the color tools is the Tint tool. It allows you to add either a green or magenta color tint to your photo. Drag the slider to the left to add a green tint, or to the right to add a magenta tint. If you're unhappy with the way a photo looks that you took, it's worth a quick bit of experimentation just to see if adding a green or magenta tint could bring out the elements in your photo that you want to highlight. So let's take a look at how that works. So this photo of some honeysuckle blooms is just way too green. Everything's green except those white blooms. So I think it's worth it to experiment with the tint and just see what happens. So first, of course, we're going to add the green by sliding to the left. And that's going to be way too much because now everything looks green. And so I'm going to go the other way, add a little magenta on there, and let's see what happens. You know, I really like what's happening here. It's bringing out that background a little bit better, giving some contrast and bringing out those blooms. So this was a worthwhile experimentation. So here you have the before photo with all the green, and then we used the Tint tool to add some magenta. We slid to the right, and I really like how that enhanced that photo. I hope you'll take some time soon to take some photos that you've already taken or create some new ones and make adjustments with these 4 settings to see how they can change your photos. Our goal here is to help you become a better photographer with your iPhone's powerful camera. So taking the time to experiment will help move you along to that result.